Welcome to the Sportsline podcast on CHCH, where we love talking sports from a local perspective. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Well, if you haven't noticed, folks, athletes, teams, and executives from Southern Ontario are gaining national and international attention and notoriety all over the place. And the Sportsline podcast wants to know your story. Folks, from my early days of enjoying sports, boxing has always been one of my favorites. Names like Ali, Frazier, Foreman, Holmes, and heavyweights like that, Duran, Sugar Ray, Hagler, Hearns, middle and welterweights I hold certainly close to my sports fandom. As Canadians, George Chuvalo, the King, Lennox Lewis, Gotti, the Hiltons, and on a local level, how about Sean O'Sullivan and Dan Sherry, who really got so close to the top. Today we talk about the Rannelli family that over decades combined to win multiple Canadian titles. So I am real pleased to have the likes of Ryan Rannelli come in and join us here on the Sportsline podcast, where we're going to talk a little bit about boxing, which is so cool for me, and to learn a little bit about your family. I knew about you, quite honestly. I didn't know that your lines of boxing stretch so far back.
Yeah, it started all with, I'll give you a little background. I started with the Woodland Boxing Club in Sudbury, Ontario, in Valley East, just a little outskirt of Sudbury. And that was with Leo Bertuzzi, who is like a well-known boxing coach in the Sudbury area. And then, with things getting so busy, he decided to pass off the Woodland Boxing Club, and it went to my grandfather, Bill Rannelli, who was helping Leo with my dad, my uncles, in that Woodland Boxing Club. And then, so he turned it into the Valley's Boxing Club, which still exists today. And throughout that time, through the 70s and 80s, he coached my four uncles, my dad, to multiple national titles. Also like Golden Gloves titles in Syracuse, New Mexico, all the way down to, local, provincial level boxers, and then even a couple of Olympians.
So when you were growing up, you had no choice.
It's almost felt that way a little bit. But believe it or not, my dad didn't really push it on me. He brought me to the Phoenix Boxing Club for the first time when I was like 11 years old. A little background on the Valley's Boxing Club had a little layoff for a couple of years, and then so that's why he didn't take me to the Valley's Boxing Club. So we went to the Phoenix, and then I didn't like it. I hated it. Yeah.
The sport?
I hated boxing. Yeah.
Okay.
The first boxing club I went to, I hated boxing. You on sparring day, like I just got thrown in there. And actually, before I got thrown in there, I had to go to the mouth guard drawer, open up a drawer and pick a mouth guard out of there that fit, which is crazy.
Yeah, when you think about it now.
Yeah, crazy now. And then I got in there, didn't like it at all, and then I quit. Maybe a year later, my dad and my uncle decided to revive the Valley's Boxing Club in the same location, and then it was like I was sold for whatever reason. I don't know. I just like a little bit more hunger. I was, a lot can happen in a year at that age, and I haven't looked back since.
What about your rise to a Canadian title? How did that all start? I mean, obviously you're fully encompassed in what the training aspect of it, which obviously, as you would know, is the hard part. Getting in the ring is like, can last for a half an hour, maybe even much less. Yeah, but it's a training and preparation. Yeah, it's a preparation that kind of gets you to where you want to be. What about the raise to the top there for you?
Definitely. Like I definitely did not have a straight line to success. I actually I had a very, like, if you look at my entire career, I had a very like average amateur boxing career when you compare it to some of the greats in Canada. But I was very like fortunate to find an amazing coach in Hamilton, Vinnie Ryan from rest in peace. He died in October. From McGrory's Boxing Club, and he helped me kind of take it to the next level. and win the Canadian Championships in 2006 and 7. But prior to that, yeah, it was like a roller coaster ride, right? Trying to, which is part of why I got so hooked on boxing. I was like, I had to overcome myself. There was like, there was parts of me that in the gym, you couldn't master. It's like, I've got the skills, but there's something else in there that's like shutting down, right? Whether it's like mental or, nerves or like, you know what I mean? Not being able to think quickly under those stressful situations, all those things combined, those are things that I just got obsessed with trying to master.
Right.
And that's what kind of kept me going. So, long story short, or short story long, I had a rough start, especially as like junior intermediate. And then as I got older, I actually, I lost a lot less, had a lot more success, and hit my stride a little later. Yeah.
A guy like Ali, the combinations, the speed, the endurance, Frazier, the left hook, Mayweather, the defense. What was your specialty? What made you such a special boxer when you were in the ring?
Well, I think like speed and volume, definitely, and conditioning. Like I not like to toot my own horn, but I think my conditioning's up there. But if I had to like quote the late and great Vinny Ryan, I would say that I don't know what I could say on here. Is it okay? Yeah, okay, all right.
Go wild, it's a podcast.
He said if your balls weren't so big, we'd get you to a lower weight class. So it was grit, just keep going.
And you fought, what weight class were you?
I fought everywhere from flyweight to light welterweight, but I was Canadian champion at flyweight, which was a better weight for me, a more competitive weight. And then 1 year I won the provincials at the featherweight division. So
going back to your family, again, just so much success, your father as well too. I guess in some ways, is it fair to say that success breeded success?
I would say so, yeah. There's always that like, and it's funny you mentioned that. Like I never, ever for 1 second thought that I was fueled by, the pressure of like, trying to fill some shoes. But not until like really the last couple of years that I've felt like, wow, I was actually, there was something behind there that was like fueling me, right? I was trying to fill those shoes. And it's been, what I would also say is like I was always like proud of the family history, but it's funny, like I if anybody asked about it, I would always tell people the story. And there's pictures, of course, on the wall of my dad and my uncles in the gym, but now as I get older, it's become a lot more like on the front line to like
you appreciate that stuff.
I appreciate it a lot more, and not to say it wasn't like appreciated before. It was just almost like I didn't want to like look at it because out of like fear or doubt of being able to fulfill that
pressure. Yeah, okay, for sure.
Those shoes,
they set such a high bar.
Right. Yeah. And now that I'm older, I'm like, you know what? It's sick. It's and there's a big part of me that just wants to preserve it now, get the word out, and preserve it. Which is why I'm actually, funny enough, me and my designer, we're designing a line of T-shirts to highlight some of the Canadian greats who aren't getting a lot of love right now, because like boxing's like, you're only as good as your last fight, right? In some ways. So so I'm launching a Rick Rannelli shirt. Okay. Yeah, it's like a graphic tee with some notable dates, Canadian title dates and whatnot. And then so that's gonna be the start of that whole line. And then I'm gonna move on to other Canadian greats.
Well, I think that's so important to recognize the history, and this goes for any sport because we all come from something,
Totally.
you know, and to recognize the ones that laid the path down. You want to name? I know I put something up. We had a board there of you know your dad. Like, you want to just name some of those people in your family that were so successful and won titles?
Yeah, definitely. There was my dad was a 3-time Canadian champion. My uncle Danny was like a 6 to 8 time. I can't even.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to get the info from my dad, and he was like, "I can't even tell you, man." It was like 8, you know. But I got to look through some records to get a final number. But he was like an 8-time Canadian champion. My uncle Billy was a 5-time Canadian champion, and I have a little more hard facts on him. He won a bronze medal at the 1978 Commonwealth Games, which was held in Canada, as you know. Yeah, my uncle Tony.
That was Edmonton, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it. You know your sports. And then there was my uncle Tony, who was a provincial level champion, and my uncle Chris, who was a champion, Canadian champion, a couple of years.
That's incredible.
Yeah. All coached by my grandpa, Bill Rannelli Sr. And but honestly, the Northern boys really represented Canada for a number of years there in the 70s and 80s. There's Gilles Bizaillon. Later, there was Phil Boudreau, who went to the Olympics. And then there was Stuart Mitchell, world champion in 1992. Yeah, the list goes on, man. A lot of greats up north. And then of course, down south, there's, you mentioned them, George Chavallo, Lennox Lewis. A really good friend of mine who, you know, unfortunately didn't get the world stardom that he should have or would have in the States is Steve Molitor. I'm sure you know.
Yep.
Steven the Kid Molitor, 2-time IBF champ. Yeah, great guy.
As we list off so many of those names that so many people know, was there one of them? Was there, and obviously you had your family to model after as well too, but was one of them you would consider, I don't know, maybe a hero or someone that maybe you modeled yourself after?
Yeah, absolutely. My uncle Bill, he was like, his style was unbelievable. He could box, he could bang. He was actually a southpaw, like a left-handed.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, left-handed, but they trained him orthodox.
Oh.
Yeah, so he had
So he'd go back and forth.
Yeah.
Like Hagler did that.
Yeah, actually, he wouldn't switch. He just stayed orthodox. He was trained as an orthodox, stayed orthodox. Yeah. So he had a good left to the body, left hook to the head.
Right.
Yeah. And then...
very confusing to face.
Yeah. So I loved his style. He knew how to get in there, and he could box on the outside a little bit, too. So that was cool. And then I always looked up to Steve Molitor.
Okay.
Yeah. He was, like... For what he did, you know, he's from Sarnia, but he trained out of Mississauga.
Right. For
him to put, you know, Canada on the world map, or Ontario on the world map, with little to no resources, you know, out here, you know, because we don't have the same infrastructure as like Vegas, right?
For sure.
It's not the same opportunities, but he did a big thing.
It's why I like
pretty special.
It's why a guy like a Lennox Lewis, who comes from Kitchener, wins a medal for Canada in the Olympics. He goes away to England, right? I guess that's just because there's just better coaching and, as you said, there's a better infrastructure.
Yeah, better
to get to that next level. 100%.
And then obviously money talks if you show up with a gold medal, and
yeah,
you know, the promoters in Canada are offering you like. You know, a hot meal. I mean, you're gonna go to England for the $1 million signing bonus,
yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, money talks, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you have this incredible success and an enjoyable career, something that you're very, very proud of. But like everyone in sports, there comes the D-Day, and there's that, or actually I call it the R-Day, retirement, and that. What do I do next? Was it just natural for you, a natural transition to what you're doing now, or were there, you know, some times where you just, what do I do now?
Well, I actually coached and fought and moved between the two.
You had a game plan.
Yeah, I moved between the two laterally, and funny enough, I was gonna go pro in 2020, and then COVID kind of sidelined that a little bit with you know, all the complications that came with that. But now I'm looking to make a pro debut this year.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't have any. I don't have a contract signed. Don't have anything like that. So I don't want to talk too much on any dates. But you know, in short, I mean, I just don't want to go out like a punk. So I want, you know, there's still things like I want to prove.
Right.
Not in any kind of like, I don't have to prove it to anybody else. Nothing like that. It's just, it's always, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, you know, when I started boxing, it was always like I had to try and overcome me. And that's what got me like hooked on boxing. And so, so that's the same thing, right? Not trying to prove it to anybody else, but just myself.
So where did No Excuse come in? Where does this come in? Established 2008.
Yeah,
it's a place for folks that are, you know, are maybe not so local to this area. Burlington is kind of a spot right now for yourself and many people to go in there and learn some skills. And again, because of your family so rich in this sport, it's a family affair in that building.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, my family, all my uncles and my dad are still up north in Sudbury. I made the move for McRoy's to train with Vinny Ryan. So, yeah, so unfortunately there's no involvement there with my family, but when they come down, they're always supportive. But, yeah, this started in Hamilton, 2008. Okay. Yeah, on King William, downtown. And then we made the move in 2013, and that's been our home ever since. And we've got a great community. I've got one of the best head amateur coaches in the business, Brandon Tominas. He helps kind of fill in the gaps where I can't, you know, because you wear a lot of hats when you're owning a gym and you're coaching. So wherever I can't fill in, he's there, right? And we're building a great community there. Lots of people are everywhere from like people just trying to get healthier to people thinking, I can test the waters and do some sparring, all the way up to competition level. We got a fight team as well.
And that's an amazing part is that, you know, and not to be sexist in any sense, but you've opened up the lanes for women to come feel comfortable in a gym as well too.
Absolutely, yeah. Doors open, everybody's accepted, as long as you work hard, right? Yeah, there's no discrimination. It's just the only thing that's not acceptable is, you know, not trying or even worse, pulling other people down. It's a good community. It's positive, and everybody's working hard. As far as the female clientele goes, yeah, it's obviously boxing gyms have always, you know, attracted more guys. Sure. You know, but I did coach a female athlete to the Canadian Championships. She made it all the way to the North American, or sorry, the American Continentals. In 2017, she got the silver medal there. So we have put ladies on the international stage, and even right now we have Brandon, our head coach, has got a team of very, very hungry female boxers. So it's not just for the boys. The girls can come out too, and they can get competitive or keep it recreational. It's up to them.
And what you've done too, and I know we talked about this off camera, is that, you know, maybe not just boxing, like the joining of MMA, mixed martial arts, and boxing, it was just a natural, whatever you want to call it, combat sports or not. And you are there to offer all kinds of services and abilities and learning for people, man or woman.
Yeah. You're right. We just launched a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program. So in that way, yeah, you know, worlds are colliding. You know, there was a time where like it was almost like there was old school boxing fans, and then there was like new school MMA fans, and it was very separate for a number of years, especially in North America. But yeah, you could see how like I think MMA in general just brought more eyes to fighting, right? And that's spilling over into boxing. And yeah, it's been great for fighting and for boxing and martial arts overall.
I know there's probably many sayings and quotes and that kind of thing that really motivate you. And there was one when I was reading a lot about you that really came to mind that I'm going to read to you, and you kind of tell me what this means to you. The hero and the coward both feel the same thing, but the hero uses his fear, projects it onto his opponent while the coward runs. It's the same fear, but it's what you do with it that matters. The legendary Customato, and for those who don't know who Customato is, the guy that got Mike Tyson into boxing and refined his skills into being a heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
When I read those words, what do they mean to you?
And refined his character too.
Great point. Because he was never the same once Cuss died.
No, and then now, as he gets older, he's becoming a lot more like humble. He's working towards just being a better human overall, and it's all based on Cuss's lessons, although they didn't. Sometimes it takes a while for lessons to sink in, and that seems to be the case for Tyson, right? He's looking back on all the lessons that Cuss gave him, and he's becoming, just a better person, which is cool. But yeah, that's a great quote. I mean, Cuss knows, right? He's been around the sport a long time, or he was in the sport a long time. He also got Floyd Patterson to the World Championship title level. And that quote definitely resonates with me, and I think it resonates with just about any human being who knows that there's something that sometimes holds us back. And it goes back to what I was saying that earlier about what got me hooked on boxing, which is overcoming yourself. And that was a big part of that is fear, right? When I was a kid, I was sparring, I was trying to execute all the skills that were taught to me, but sometimes it's that fear that stands in the way, right? And you freeze up, and but what separates the average or the good from the best is the ones that can harness it, right? Use it and perform on the big stage, right?
Goes right back to what we were talking about, the mental.
Yeah,
right?
Mental. It's all in one, right? Mental. Mental, physical, dealing with stress, dealing with the lights, Right. There's a lot of guys that put work on Floyd Mayweather in the gym, but they can't do it under the lights in front of the crowd, right? So,
it's funny because you talked about the coaching aspect, and I think that's so interesting, and the fact that you still have some professional dreams, and those are going to be accomplished, and you're going to be approaching that. But the coaching aspect of it as well too, and how you share your experience onto other people on a higher level than just your gym in itself. I mean, I think you had some success at the Brampton Cup as well
Brampton
too.
Cup, yeah.
And I think that's got to be amazing for you to have your own personal success, but know that in this case, others are enjoying listening, absorbing what you're teaching them, and mixing it in with their own style and moving on as well too. Where are we right now with all the competitions out there? I think we need to get them out a little bit more and word about them a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. It's always great to see your teachings kind of manifest in real time in the ring. That's the best, right? That's what we all strive for. But and that being said, we're going to have a club show in about 6 weeks, which is basically an in-house event. Okay. We match up our fighters with other clubs, and then people come out. It's a great time. So we'll look at that at late March.
Okay.
But that being said, the competition in Ontario, although it's kind of quiet, for most people, it's happening every weekend. There's between 2 and 3 club shows, which are boxing fights, every weekend in Ontario. So it is thriving. It's alive. It's just a little quiet. It's yeah.
Well, when this happens for you, please let me know.
I will. I
mean, we want to promote these kind of things, and not just here on this in the Sportsline podcast, but also on my other duties at CHCH as the anchor as well too. Because I do believe we got to get more word about this, because I don't know if there's just this feeling of we don't really support this, and I see this for all sports, that we only support people when we get to the top. But
yeah, there's
boy,
a lot of that.
but watching someone bud and grow, you know all about this.
Yeah.
It's so rewarding.
Absolutely, yeah. And the competition is definitely the top, like the top echelon for that. Like, but in my gym, like I really get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing somebody just get a little bit better every day, whether that's to compete or it could also be just a recreational member who is living healthier. They're striving. They're in a happier place for their family. You know what I mean? They're like kicking ass at work and coming into the gym, getting better at their craft. Maybe one day they'll spar, maybe one day they'll compete, maybe they won't. But if they're getting better, for me, that's I take a lot of enjoyment out of that. And then, of course, all of those members kind of get behind the fight team too, and we help motivate them.
Well, 2024, I've had a thought about doing a little something about this boiler, so maybe we can go in and I can hit the bag a little bit.
Hey, man, as long as you don't hit me, you're good. You're good. You're welcome, man. I'm not going in the ring with you. That's all.
You know what you mean?
Before we start, I'm putting that out there.
All right. Ryan Rannelli, thank you so much for joining us here on the Sportsline podcast. So much understanding or I think respect for the fact of what you've accomplished, what your family have accomplished. You're continuing that name. And I'm really now excited that you broke the news there on this podcast that you have plans to get back in the ring. So please let us know what's going on. We're certainly happy. I'll be your little sideline promoter as well, too. And good luck with expansion of the club and getting the word out there about the sport that you love so much and the sport that we both actually love so much.
Thanks so much.
Right on.
You're a beauty, Bubba.
All right, pleasure, but thank you so much. Hey, folks, that is your Sportsline podcast for the day, and as we end the week, and as I always ask, if you do know an athlete, a team, or an event to promote, the Sportsline podcast do want to hear and tell your story as well. So, folks, if you do like and see what you're seeing and hearing, please hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe button wherever you do watch or listen to your podcast. For the talented minds and hands that make the Sportsline podcast possible, I thank you, and we'll see you next week.